So this research that we conducted was called The Perfect Storm of Discipline, how pose, perception, and threat converge to create what we would call the school to prison pipeline. Now, there's no dispute that there is a school to prison pipeline that exists. However, one thing that the perfect storm does is it gives us an idea to know what it looks like in a particular school. And in order to address the school to prison pipeline, we have to know what it looks like in order to correct it. So what it does is it creates an elaboration of strain theory. The perfect storm of discipline identifies three elements that, if present at the same time in a particular school, can create what in essence we would call the school to prison pipeline. And essentially those three elements are cool pose, threat, and perception. Cool pose comes from the work of Richard Majors in the mid-1980s that spoke of this persona that marginalized minority, particularly males, took on as a coping mechanism to defend against racism, to defend against microaggressions and dangers within their communities. When misinterpreted, that cool pose, whether it's the way a style of walk or dress or speech or this facade of being unaffected or unemotional, gives off the appearance that the person doesn't care. And oftentimes that misinterpretation of that cool pose becomes the impetus by which discipline becomes excessive. Next, it converges with the idea of perception. When students are particularly perceived a certain way through teacher perceptions, it can almost enhance what we notice of their behaviors, so that we begin to intensify their behaviors based on our perception of what their behaviors are. And a lot of research suggests that what minority males in particular are often suspended for are very subjective rules. So it's almost like a selective bias that goes on in determining which rules get applied to certain males and minority males and which ones do not. The last one is threat. Threat is when the perceiver feels as if the numbers, the sheer sizable amount of minority males or minorities in general indicates a threat to their control. And oftentimes whenever a person has a feeling of threat to control, the position or potential to overcompensate in discipline and in punishment then begins to ensue. So the cool pose converging with perception and threat gives this idea that there's a problem in a particular school. So what we suggest as a solution is that we begin to address teacher and student perceptions and dispositions. And that the challenge that we have is to relax this idea of the cool pose without necessarily sacrificing the dignity of the student. That it's okay to have your style, but also then to be aware that there may be some who perceive things in the wrong way, and we have to work towards that.